Sherlock Holmes, the world-renowned detective, was called upon to investigate a tragic incident that occurred on the set of the film, Rust, at Bonanza Creek Ranch in Santa Fe County, New Mexico. On October 21, 2021, at 1:47 p.m., a firearm-related incident injured two employees, with one, Halynahutchins, succumbing to their injuries. Joel Souza, the film's director, was also injured in the incident. The New Mexico Film Office notified the detectives of the incident on the evening of October 21, and on October 22, 2021, the detectives initiated an inspection of the film set. With his unparalleled detective skills, Sherlock Holmes, along with his dear sidekick, Dr. John Watson, set out to uncover the truth behind this tragic event. Sherlock and Dr. Watson were summoned to the Bonanza Creek Ranch, a picturesque location nestled in the heart of Santa Fe County, New Mexico. Known for hosting movie and television productions for over 70 years, the ranch featured an entire Old West town complete with a saloon, jail, chapel, and other Western staples. However, a recent incident involving a firearm had occurred within the chapel at the southwestern edge of Old West town, casting a dark shadow over the otherwise idyllic setting. As they arrived at the ranch, Holmes and Watson were greeted with the solemn sight of the small wooden chapel, its tall steeple and cross now marred by the events that had transpired within its walls. Without delay, the duo set to work examining the crime scene and interviewing any potential witnesses. As they delved deeper into the case, they found themselves uncovering a web of secrets and lies that threatened to unravel the peaceful facade of the Bonanza Creek Ranch. But with their unyielding determination and unparalleled detective skills, Holmes and Watson were determined to uncover the truth behind the incident and bring the perpetrator to justice. The case had just begun and the mystery deepened as more clues and evidence came to light. The duo knew that this case would be one of their most challenging yet. As they began their investigation, they learned that Rust, the film production company, had 13 revolvers for the production in total, from manufacturers Piet, Uber-T, and Cimarron. In the film industry, firearms are typically controlled by the props department, with the individual responsible for handling firearms and ammunition titled armorer, or weapons handler. The armorer for this film was Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and her immediate supervisor was Sarah Zachary, props master. Nicole Montoya, props assistant, provided support to Zachary and Gutierrez Reed. The Rust props department was small, and for administrative purposes was placed under the art department, headed by Brian Norvell, who provided support for props but rarely worked with Zachary or Gutierrez Reed. As they delved deeper into the case, Holmes and Watson found themselves questioning the chain of command and protocols surrounding the handling of firearms on set. They knew that solving this case would require a thorough examination of the evidence, as well as interviews with those involved in the props department. With their usual precision and attention to detail, Holmes and Watson were determined to uncover the truth behind the incident and bring the perpetrator to justice. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson were called upon to investigate an incident involving a firearm at an undisclosed location. Upon arriving at the scene, they were presented with a modern replica of a Colt .45 caliber revolver, long Colt, in style. The revolver was the key piece of evidence in the case, and Holmes and Watson knew that solving the incident would require a thorough examination of the weapon. They examined the revolver with their usual precision and attention to detail, noting every scratch and mark on the gun. Holmes carefully examined the trigger mechanism and firing mechanism, while Watson examined the barrel and chamber. They also examined the ammunition and casings found at the scene to see if they matched the gun. As they delved deeper into the case, they began to uncover a web of lies and deceit that stretched far beyond the incident at hand. Fueled by their unshakable resolve and unmatched sleuthing abilities, Holmes and Watson set out to uncover the facts and bring the guilty party to account for their actions. As the investigation progressed and new leads and information emerged, it became clear that this case would test the limits of even their formidable detective skills. As part of their investigation, they began to interview the individuals involved in the handling of firearms on the set. First on their list of witnesses was Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer for the film production company Rust. She reported to Sarah Zachary for direction on daily tasks, and Zachary in turn reported to Brian Norvell, who was the head of the art department, which oversaw the props department. Norvell reported to Roe Walters, and Roe Walters reported to Gabrielle Pickle, the head of the production company. Due to the nature of her position, Gutierrez Reed also regularly corresponded with Pickle directly via text messages and emails. Gutierrez-Reed was responsible for performing armorer duties such as demonstrating that a firearm was cold or hot, and working closely with Dave Halls, who was also responsible for identifying and correcting hazardous conditions related to firearm safety. Holmes and Watson carefully questioned Gutierrez-Reed and Halls, looking for any inconsistencies in their stories or any information that could shed light on the incident. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson were deep in the midst of investigating an incident involving a firearm on the set of a film production at the Bonanza Creek Ranch in Santa Fe County, New Mexico. One of the key witnesses in their investigation was Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the armorer for the film production company Rust. As armorer, Gutierrez-Reed was responsible for the storage, maintenance, and handling of firearms and ammunition on set, as well as training members of the cast who would be handling firearms. In accordance with Rust's safety procedures and industry-recognized safety practices, the armorer is required to be present whenever firearms are being handled and should have the authority to determine whether an individual requires additional safety training. However, Rust also required Gutierrez-Reed to perform the role of props assistant to Sarah Zachary when firearms were not in active use. In an email conversation that occurred on October 10, 2021, Gabrielle Pickle, the head of the production company, informed Gutierrez-Reed that she was allowed 8 paid days at the armorer's rate in her contract to perform armorer tasks, and the rest of her time was to be spent as a props assistant. This new information was a crucial development in the case, and Holmes and Watson knew that it could hold the key to understanding the incident and bringing the perpetrator to justice. With meticulous scrutiny, they combed through the email exchange between Pickle and Gutierrez-Reed, searching for any discrepancies or hints that might illuminate the situation. Determined to unravel the truth and see justice served, they dove deeper into the case with unyielding commitment. As they probed further into the mystery, fresh revelations came to light that could unlock the secrets of the incident and lead to the capture of the perpetrator. One such piece of information was that Rust, the film production company, had ordered ammunition, with the intent to receive blank and dummy rounds, from PDQ Arm and Props, a company located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The property master had stated that Rust did not intend to have live rounds on the set. Live rounds may be distinguishable from dummy rounds by either a small hole in the brass cartridge, indicating that there is no powder, by a missing or dimpled primer at the bottom of the cartridge, or by shaking the round and hearing the distinct clatter of a BB within. However, unless a round is removed from a storage box or firearm and inspected, it can't be verified as a dummy round. Holmes and Watson knew that this information could be crucial in their investigation, and they carefully examined all of the ammunition and firearms on the set, looking for any signs that live rounds were present. With tenacity and a fierce resolve, they dug deeper into the case, determined to unearth the facts and ensure that the perpetrator faced the consequences of their actions. As they ventured further into the depths of the investigation, they uncovered an email exchange between Gabrielle Pickle, the head of the production company, and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the armorer for Rust. On October 14, 2021, Pickle emailed Gutierrez-Reed addressing her duties as armorer and key assistant props and stating, "It has been brought to my attention that you are focusing far more on armor and not supporting props as needed." In the same email, Pickle informed Gutierrez-Reed that the production and AD team have seen twice that there was a shotgun left unattended after a scene. Pickle went on to state that she needed some type of check-in, out system put in place immediately. Gutierrez-Reed responded by email the same day stating that the armorer job was a very serious job, and since we've started I've had a lot of days where my job should only be to focus on the guns and everyone's safety. Gutierrez-Reed later in the same email stated, "There are working guns on set every day and those are ultimately going to be a priority because when they're not, that's when dangerous mistakes can happen." Holmes and Watson were well aware that the email correspondence could be a vital piece of the puzzle, and thus, they pored over the messages with a fine-toothed comb, searching for any signs of incongruities or breadcrumbs that might lead them closer to understanding the occurrence. As the investigation continued, Holmes and Watson learned of a series of misfires that had occurred on the Rust set on October 16, 2021. The first instance involved Sarah Zachary, the props master, who inadvertently fired a blank round as she finished loading a .45 caliber revolver that was aimed at the ground. The second instance involved another member of the crew who accidentally fired a blank round from a shotgun. Holmes and Watson knew that these misfires could be crucial in their investigation, and they carefully examined the firearms and the circumstances surrounding the misfires. They discovered that in the first instance, the hammer of the revolver had slipped from Zachary's thumb or fingers, likely resulting in the firing pin striking the primer and igniting the powder, firing the blank round. Watson noted that to return the hammer to the closed position and make the firearms safe, the operator must hold the hammer and depress the trigger, guiding the hammer to the closed position deliberately. He also pointed out that the misfire could have been caused by a lack of proper training or carelessness in handling firearms. Holmes and Watson knew that these misfires could be related to the incident they were investigating, and they were relentless in their pursuit of the truth. They embarked on a quest to unveil the reality and ensure that the wrongdoer faced the retribution they deserved. As the investigation continued, Holmes and Watson uncovered details of another misfire that had occurred on the Rust set on October 16, 2021. This misfire involved Blake Teixeira, a stunt double for Alec Baldwin, and a lever-action rifle of unknown make and model. According to some statements, Teixeira was alone in the cabin when the misfire occurred, while others stated that he was not alone. The exact circumstances of the misfire were unknown, as Teixeira's only comment was, "It just went off." Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer for Rust, stated that it is probable that the rifle fired by being placed onto the ground too roughly. Holmes and Watson knew that this misfire could be crucial in their investigation, and they carefully examined the rifle and questioned all the individuals present during the misfire. Their determination to uncover the truth and bring the perpetrator to justice was like a beacon that illuminated their path, guiding them through the twists and turns of the investigation and driving them to unravel the mystery at all costs. As the investigation continued, Holmes and Watson came across a text message exchange between Hannah Gutierrez Reed and Gabrielle Pickle, the head of the production company. On October 17, 2021, Gutierrez Reed sent a text message to Pickle stating, "Hey, we're on day 8 of Armor Days. So if there's gunfire after this, you may want to talk to the producers." Pickle replied the same day that there would be no more trading, sick days. Gutierrez Reed then asked to clarify, "Training days?" Pickle responded, "Like training Alec and such." Holmes and Watson understood the gravity of the text message exchange in their inquiry. Thus, they meticulously perused the messages, searching for any signs of irregularity or hints that might unveil the situation. They also interrogated both Gutierrez Reed and Pickle regarding the significance of the text messages, to gain a more profound comprehension of the scenario. As they ventured deeper into the case, their determination to unveil the reality and bring the wrongdoer to face the consequences of their actions grew stronger with each passing moment. As the investigation progressed, Holmes and Watson learned of Lane Looper, the first assistant camera, who resigned citing safety concerns among other issues. In an email to Roe Walters, Looper stated, "During the filming of gunfights on this job, things are often played very fast and loose. So far, there have been 2 accidental weapons discharges and 1 accidental SFX explosive that have gone off around the crew between takes." Looper went on to state, "To be clear, there are no safety meetings these days. There have been no explanations as to what to expect for these shots." Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson were closing in on their prime suspect. The evidence led him to an incident that occurred on October 21, 2021, where the infamous revolver, loaded with what was thought to be dummy rounds, was handed to none other than the famous actor, Alec Baldwin. He aimed it at Halynah Hutchins and Joel Souza and pulled the trigger. But to the shock of all present, the revolver discharged, striking both Hutchins and Souza. Holmes and Watson knew that this was the final piece of the puzzle they needed to solve the case. They examined the revolver meticulously, cross-examined all the witnesses and meticulously pieced together the evidence. As they drew near to the truth, they knew that they were on the brink of unmasking the perpetrator. With their razor-sharp intellect and unparalleled detective skills, they were determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. At long last, Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson had finally caught their suspect, none other than the famous actor and producer, Alec Baldwin. The evidence they had gathered led him to the startling revelation that Baldwin, along with the director, Joel Souza, had negotiated with various producers to help create and fund the Rust project. Baldwin's authority on the set included approving script changes and actor candidates. Furthermore, it was revealed that Baldwin had handled the revolver and fired the round that struck and injured Halynah Hutchins and Joel Souza. With this final piece of evidence, Holmes and Watson knew that they had cracked the case. They presented the evidence to Baldwin and confronted him with the truth. Baldwin, unable to deny the evidence against him, finally agreed to soak the detectives and tell them everything had done. Holmes and Watson, with their relentless pursuit of justice, had finally brought the perpetrator to account. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson had finally brought their investigation to a close. The evidence they had gathered led to the conclusion that Alec Baldwin, the famous actor and producer, and Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer who was in charge of weapons on the set, would be charged with involuntary manslaughter in the fatal shooting of cinematographer Halynah Hutchins on the New Mexico set of the Western movie, Rust. David Halls, the first assistant director, had also signed a plea agreement for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon, which is likely to lead to 6 months of probation. He had also agreed to testify for the state, officials said. As the case went to court, Baldwin and Gutierrez-Reed were charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, a 4th-degree felony which is normally punishable by up to 18 months behind bars and a $5,000 fine. But a firearm enhancement on the charges could make the crime punishable by a mandatory sentence of 5 years in jail. After a thorough review of the evidence and the laws of the state of New Mexico, Sherlock and his dear Watson determined that there is sufficient evidence to file criminal charges against Alec Baldwin and other members of the Rust film crew. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson were satisfied that justice had been served, with the knowledge that they had played a vital role in uncovering the truth and bringing the perpetrator to justice. They returned to their home at 221B Baker Street, where they would spend the evening reflecting on the case and discussing their next move. As they sat by the fire, Holmes raised his glass and proposed a toast to the memory of Halynah Hutchins and to the pursuit of justice. And with that, the case of the fatal shooting on the set of Rust was closed, but the legacy of their work would live on.